Okay, we're on the air. Hi, this is Lou Covey. I'm the editorial director of New Tech Press and the CEO of Fluentwasher Media. And this is our quarterly newsletter for the summer. And it's going to be a little bit different because we're doing it live today on Google Hangouts. And just to let you know what's coming up or what we've been working on for the past quarter, we took a look at marketing practices of real estate. Of the real estate industry, and that article is up on our ComBasics blog. We've also just finished a survey of customer acquisition and retention for the wine industry, which is very interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And we're going to be talking to a company later this month that's going to be offering free security audits for companies developing online software. And today I'm here with my partner out in Austin, Texas, Joe Basquez. We are going to be talking about an analysis of a study that we've done on energy storage for things like solar and wind energy. And some interesting things have cropped up from that. And Joe actually had a few questions for me. So Joe, welcome.
Thanks, Lou. It's good to be back with you again, finally talking again. So, yeah, let's just jump right in. I think one of the things that you have often said in regards to alternative energy is that it's kind of the playground for people who are better well off. The system itself still costs quite a bit to implement. Even when you look at things like, solar panels that are given away, when you look at the long term, what they're actually going to cost, when they're needed to be replaced, things like that, they still cost more. So when we talk about being able to drive kilowatts of electricity down to a penny or something like that, it doesn't mean anything unless you get the rest of the system to be around that same kind of value. And so as with any system, weakest link in the chain. We actually took a look at batteries, something that I really haven't seen any significant change in battery technology in probably 10 years. So my question to you actually was, we had been talking about the article you wrote, and you found some interesting technology, which I'm sure you'll talk about here. My question to you was, is it a technology that's going to get that weakest link to a price point that makes it usable for a mass market for everyone in the home? Because I don't think anybody doesn't want to do this. I don't think anybody looks at green energy or alternative energy and goes, this is a bad idea, or I don't want to save the earth. It all comes down to the money. So what did you find when you were digging around in the area of batteries?
Well, as your question was, is it getting down there? And the answer is yes and no. Science has given us a lot of wonderful things over the centuries, but it's also been the cause of some major ecological and economic disasters. When workers on the Panama Canal were dying of malaria, science developed DDT to kill the mosquitoes. Then decades later, we found out that DDT was actually causing mass extinctions of multiple bird species. Mm-hmm. When environmental concerns over the burning of fossil fuels first arose in the 1950s, some wonderful scientists came up with the idea of nuclear power plants. And they were designed to reduce our dependence on oil and natural gas and coal. Decades later, we had Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima. So today we're facing the truth that clean renewable power is neither clean in its manufacture nor reliable in its production. It produces electricity mostly when it's not needed. To deal with that problem, science has created multiple forms of battery technology over the decades that we can store excess production from the alternative sources to smooth out the demand in the demand space. In 10 years, however, that storage technology could create one of the largest environmental disasters the world has ever seen on several levels, and it will cost us billions of dollars to clean it up. Because here's the basic thing is that the most common battery that we know of is lead-acid batteries. That's the stuff that goes into our cars. Well, we know that lead is an incredibly toxic substance. And so when the batteries are dead, and they do die altogether, they have to be recycled, which is very expensive, or they go into landfill, which is not where they're supposed to be. But all over the world. I mean, even the country of India is considering banning the use of lead-acid batteries for anything other than automotive use, because there's such a huge problem with the eliminating that stuff. Okay, but the good news is it's cheap. Okay. Next, we had nickel cadmium came up there, which is used in a lot of cell phones and cameras. But nickel cadmium is just as dirty, if not more so. And the recycling issue is a bigger problem. So even the European Union has banned nickel cadmium batteries because they're so toxic, which leaves us with lithium-ion batteries. Lithium is just as toxic as nickel and cadmium. It damages water resources. And you know, right now in Nevada, Tesla is building these batteries and buying up water rights left and right in Nevada, which is primarily a desert. So there's going to be some additional costs there. But here's the other problem. Nickel, cadmium, lithium-ion, and lead-acid batteries all cost around $1,000 per kilowatt hour. So if you have a 5 kilowatt solar power facility, which is about how much you put on your home, then you're going to need at least 3 days of energy storage in case of disaster. So you have to have 15 kilowatt hours of battery storage, which at $1,000 a pop is $15,000. That's about half the amount you're going to have to spend for solar energy altogether. And yes, we're not including what government subsidies there are, but we're just talking about the final cost to society. So if you're adding a 15 kilowatt hour storage facility to a 5 kilowatt hour solar facility, you're talking about $45,000. The other problem with that is that nickel, cadmium, lithium ion, and lead acid lose their capacity to recharge after 10 years. In fact, it's down to about 70 or 80%. So you have to either supplement that by adding more batteries or completely replace them, which means that the cost is essentially doubled. So now you're now paying twice as much money for your solar system, $30,000 for the solar, and another $30,000 for the energy over the course of the 20-year lifespan of the solar panels. So your energy storage is essentially doubling the cost of energy, which wipes out any kind of savings that you might have going forward. So as you said, the whole concept of renewable energy is something that is the bailiwick of the well-off, maybe not necessarily rich, but people who can afford to invest that kind of money and time into their technology. Now, here's the good news. There are cheaper, cleaner alternatives to lithium-ion, nickel, cadmium, and lead acid. They come mostly in the realm of what is called of flow energy storage. Mm-hmm. And they use different kinds of technology for that, and we've actually written about that. That's going to be coming up on the website on New Tech Press next week. Two companies we talked to specifically was Aquion Energy and ESS. ESS makes a thing called an iron flow battery, and actually iron flow battery technology has been around for almost a century. It just hasn't gone big time. And
why is that?
Frankly, I can't figure it out. It seems like, well, why aren't we doing this? I think the closest thing we can figure out is that there has been such investment in the lead acid battery and nickel, cadmium, and lithium ion, especially with Elon Musk pushing his home battery technology, that nobody wants to invest in the technology that isn't as widely spread. And the problem is that with Aquion says that they don't actually make a flow battery, but looking at their design, it's basically the same thing as a flow battery, even though they don't want to say that. Although it's true that their lifespan is about the same as lithium ion, 10 years. After that, it starts losing battery charge. The ESS iron flow battery, on the other hand, lasts 25 years, which is pretty much the entire anticipated length of lifespan of a solar energy installation. So, and the good news is that Aqueon comes in at about $400 per kilowatt hour, and ESS comes in at $400 per kilowatt hour, but they say it's going to be going down to $300 and maybe $200 in the next couple of years. So it's much more affordable. There are absolutely no toxic issues with it. There are also no safety issues, because lithium ion, if you overcharge the batteries, they tend to blow up and catch fire, which was evidenced with the, what do you call it, the
hoverboard.
The hoverboards, yeah, the hoverboards that had bad battery management. So there's another company we talked to called Electric Power, with the IC and electric changed to IQ, because they're basically a software company. They say that their software eliminates the issue of lithium batteries, battery failures. But then we also know that software can be hacked. Even though their software is based on the cloud, on the Amazon cloud, if anyone happens to get your password, you can hack your battery. So that's the problem with that. The other problem with the flow batteries and with Aqueon is that they're not targeting the consumer base. You can't buy this stuff. If you have a house with solar panels, you can't buy this stuff from them. You can only buy stuff from people like Tesla. So you're going to have to put lithium-ion batteries in if you want to have battery storage. That's going to be a real problem in 10 years, because these things are very popular right now. And when you're talking about corporations, they have the money to deal with the issue of eliminating these batteries and recycling them properly. But the reality right now is that the lithium-ion batteries that we use in things like, our phones and cameras and things like that, only 1% of them is actually going through recycling. 99% of them, according to the studies I've read, are going into landfill.
That's an incredible number. When you mentioned that to me and I read it in your article, I was shocked at that. I suspected that would be much, much higher.
Yeah, and I was kind of stunned by it too. But what happens is, your camera battery dies. You need to get a replacement. You go on eBay, you buy a battery, you stick it into the camera, and you take the battery out. What do I do with this? Well, I did this. I stuck it in a desk drawer because I didn't know what to do with it. Okay. And eventually these things pile up, and you're cleaning out your office one day and you just decide to toss it in the garbage, and it ends up in the landfill. You don't even think about it.
Right.
What happened, I was watching an experiment about how you can make a battery fail, and they put a battery on a desk, and they got a drill, and it's just a lithium-ion battery, and they drilled a hole into it, and the thing burst into flame. So as soon as the casing erodes, or goes away, which is what will happen in the landfill, the lithium will let loose. And there are actually landfill fires going on right now that were started by little lithium-ion batteries. And you can't put them out.
So that's what you mean by just ecological disaster.
Exactly. And the thing is, that's going to fall on municipalities, because municipalities are what control landfill. Okay, and somebody's going to have to pay for that, and there are going to be lawsuits, and the battery manufacturers are going to have to be fighting them. The people that put them into the cell phones and all this stuff, the batteries for iPhones. At least with an iPhone, you can take it to Apple, and they'll you can trade in your phone, and they'll take care of it for you. But most people are just not that concerned about what's going into their landfill. That's a problem.
Once it's gone out of your house, you don't think about it again.
Yeah. So, as I said, yes, there are alternatives to these dirty technologies that are most popular right now, but they're not going to be in massive use for probably a decade. If we're lucky, it'll be within a decade. And that's concerning to me. I don't know what it is to anyone else, but it kind of scared the crap out of me.
It's a scary thought.
So, if you have questions about this, we haven't seen any questions come up on this. So this is going to be recorded and put up on our Facebook page, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It'll go up on New Tech Press. And if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask them, and we'll try and come up with them. If anybody has any answers to this, and I'm hoping that Acquion and ESS and electric power will come up and maybe tell us where we're off. But that was the one problem that I saw at the conference I went to. It's called Intersolar and the Energy Storage Industry, or something like that. That was in San Francisco a few weeks ago. And every time I asked somebody about the ecological and safety issues about lithium-ion batteries, their response was, "Oh, our technology takes care of all of that. No one else's is safe." And when people tell me that, I get really worried. So,
well, great. Yeah, and you'll be posting that next week?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, like you said, if anybody has any comments, questions, feel free to ask them there, and we'll get you the answers.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.